Quiet Valley Living Historical Farm's annual Harvest Festival is one of the area's largest fall festivals. We heard about the festival and decided to experience what living on a farm was like in the 19th century. Quiet Valley Living Historical Farm and its volunteers work to preserve these traditions for future generations through its living history experience created on the farm. Immediately upon entering the farm, the Penn-Stayed Woodmobile caught our attention, filled with educational exhibits on sustainable wood practices and highlighting the different species of wood in Pennsylvania. The truck was filled with products made from Pennsylvania wood by local manufacturing companies. Some of the products included baseball bats, cabinets, a bike, and a guitar made of all wood.
It's one of actually two Martin guitars made completely out of Pennsylvania trees. Guitars are, the sound is produced by the type and species of wood that's used, period end. So nothing will sound like that, nothing else in the world. So that's another significant aspect of it, Is it good to cut down trees? A lot of kids say, no, it's bad, we need to preserve our trees. But it's a harvestable commodity just like anything else, and if we have to do it correctly. Historically we didn't. We did a lot of clear cutting, it was harmful. But now we've changed things up. We're doing things the right way in a sustainable fashion.
After the impromptu concert, we couldn't decide what to eat, see, or do next. Right next to the Woodmobile, they were making apple butter, and the smell of cooking apples was incredible, and we couldn't pass it up.
We started with 30 gallons of cider that we boiled down to 15, and then we added the 6 trays of apples that had been peeled, sliced, and schnitzed or cut. And then we did that at 8 o'clock, and once you start to stir, then you have to stir until it turns into apple butter.
Making apple butter from scratch takes about 2 days. A large copper cauldron, a lot of firewood, and a special mixer to keep the juice moving as it was boiled down. It was a good thing there were so many volunteers willing to help make the apple butter. Since the apple butter wouldn't be ready until the end of the day, we continued to explore the farm. Our next stop, several ladies were dyeing yarn using traditional methods. They used everything from flowers to dead bugs to create the various colors of yarn.
In order to add color to our world, we use things that we would have either here on the farm or that we could acquire from a peddler or a store nearby. Today we're using flowers that we grew in the garden. We have marigolds and goldenrod and tansy, but you can get yellows from a lot of different flowers. And we're also using, this is a walnut tree, a black walnut tree, and the outside hull of the walnut will give us browns. So we have browns from the walnut tree. Everything here is something that would have been available to the housewife in the 1800s.
They colored the yarn and varied the shade by adding minerals or boiling the yarns in different metal pots, which affected the final color. In the tent right next door, there were various groups of people making yarn, threads, and fabrics from several different materials. It is amazing where different fabrics come from, such as flax-based linens, cotton yarns, wool threads, and hemp-based materials. Textile demonstrations of lace making and weaving showed how fabrics were made from farm products and how families living on farms were self-sustaining. Much of the clothing they were wearing at the festival was handmade. Everything at the festival was hands-on, and audience participation was encouraged. As we watched the demonstrations, the smell of griddle cakes lured us away from the textile tent and over to the griddle cake gals. The griddle cakes were a frontier staple for many families, made from a few simple ingredients with berries added for flavor. These cakes are made using currants and tasted amazing, hot off the griddle. Although we could have eaten our fill of griddle cakes for the day, the mouth-watering smell of fire-roasted foods and baked beans, soups, and vegetables cooking on a fire stove drew us reluctantly away from the griddle cakes. The wood-burning stove made in Scranton served as one of the only cooking methods for all the food being served and was able to keep up with the demand of the crowd. Paired with homemade pies and desserts, it was an amazing lunch. This is the ultimate in home cooking, and there were plenty of vegetarian and vegan options. We enjoyed lunch listening to one of the many live music groups scattered throughout the property. After that amazing lunch, sprawling out under a nearby tree for a quick nap would have been in order, but there was still so much to see on the farm before the day ended. Next stop, crop harvesting. Growing grains on the farm to feed people and animals is very important. Grains provided the raw materials to make flour used for breads. The entire process, from grinding the flour and making bread, was on full display. Kids were not only able to see where the different foods come from, but also how they are made from scratch. Many took part in the hands-on demonstrations, sparking curiosity and interest in the young festival goers. Even adults learned a thing or two, and the expression, "go outside and kick some corn," finally made sense when shown a metal knife that fit over a boot used to harvest corn by walking between the rows and kicking the bottom of the corn stalk with the knife to harvest the plant. One thing that impressed us throughout the farm was how much of the plants and animals grown on the farm were used, and nothing went to waste. Family farms were the ultimate in self-sufficiency, and each community provided all the skills needed to support operations, such as a local blacksmith. While observing the blacksmith work, one of the local ladies broke a part on a 100-year-old piece of equipment that was being used at the festival. The blacksmith simply took the part and made her a new one as we watched, and she was shortly back in operation. The other key elements of the farm on display included an ice house, which contained ice harvested from the pond on the property in January, and covered in sawdust, which kept the entire ice house cold all summer. During most years, there would still be ice in the ice house in January, when the next ice harvest would take place. A lime kiln near the ice house was used to make lime to help treat the soil for growing crops. Quiet Valley also supports many of the animals that would have been typically found on early farms, including rabbits, chickens, goats, and sheep. Wagon rides took visitors around the farm, including the pond where the ice is harvested in the winter. Horses were a key element of any farm and were used for everything from transportation to plowing the fields, with draft horses being used for heavier work like logging and plowing. Lighter breeds were used for riding and pulling buggies. After grabbing a fire stove baked pretzel, we headed over to the schoolhouse to observe a class taught using the teaching methods of the time. Then we stopped by a cheese-making demonstration showing methods for making lemon and mozzarella cheeses. Right next door was a Civil War encampment, so we stopped by and talked with the 142nd Volunteer Infantry, a group of reenactors from Stroudsburg, giving spectators an idea of what it was like during the time of the Civil War.
Loaded. Ready? You get into your T. Aim. Fire. There you go.
We learned how to make butter and candles using both tallow and beeswax.
A tallow candle will burn for 20 minutes until it is gone. It will produce a lot of smoke. It will smell like you lit an animal on fire. Not the greatest thing. A beeswax candle, this burns for 2 hours. There's less smoke. It doesn't smell awful.
The experience was never ending, and there was so much to see at the farm, like the smokehouse, bread oven, corn cribs, barns, and remnants of old farm equipment, combined with exhibits showing how things were made on the frontier, such as early tools and arrowheads, woven baskets and hats, leather products, and things made from animal horns, which has many of the same properties of today's plastics, including the ability to be molded.
If you work it the right way and heat the corn up to about 325 degrees, you can make it into a mold. It forms in this mold and it cools and it maintains that shape. So you make scoops, you make bowls, you make spoons.
It impressed us that there was so much to do on the farm that boredom was never an issue. When the work was done for the day, there were always games or toys for kids, stories to tell, time spent with family, swimming or hiking, and exploring the woods. There was so much time and material available for creative expression, which was evident in the needlepoint art exhibit by the Pocono chapter of the Embroiderers Guild of America. As the sun started to set and the first day of the festival was coming to an end, it was time to go pick up our apple butter and head back to life in the 21st century. We will head back to visit the farm year-round and look forward to spooky days on the farm and an old-time Christmas, as well as the ice harvest. There's always something to do or see at the farm. For more information on the farm, upcoming events, 19th century farm life, or volunteering, visit quietvalley.org. We'll see you on our next time-traveling adventure at the Quiet Valley Living Historical Farm.